Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a good Sunday so far. I got a little something I want to talk about before we get into the swing of things in terms of training camp and getting ready for the preseason. Little something that's just kind of occurred to me. Before I get into that stuff, though, the Seahawks stuff, the football stuff, I want to say real quick that in the next hour or so, maybe about the time the Mariners game starts, I am going to go live on Twitch, and we're going to be doing something a little different today. I'm going to do something that I'm actually really excited to do. I've been prepping for it for the last week or so. I'm going to do a tiermaker.com tier list, and I'm going to do it on stream. I've already made the tier list. I actually had to make this tier list myself. It's every single PlayStation 2 game that I played. I'm going to put it in a tier list. I made it over the last 4 days or so, did a lot of research. There are over 500 games in this tier list, and of those 500, I've played maybe 200. So we're going to put all those into a tier list, and I'm going to take the opportunity to talk about my experience with the PS2 and the games on it, and what I remember about these games. The PS2 was my first video game console, so if this sounds like something that interests you, then check out my Twitch. The link is in the description. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. It's probably going to take most of the afternoon. I may even break it up into multiple streams. If you don't catch the stream, I do plan on recording it and uploading it on YouTube as well on this channel, just as kind of a fun little off-season distraction. But either way, definitely try to check that out if that's something you're interested in. Should be going live on Twitch in about an hour after this video's upload. Okay, so I've been thinking about this off season lately for the NFL, mostly from a Seahawks perspective because I am a Seahawks fan, but I'm thinking about this off season, and I can't help but really think about four particular things that happened this off season. One of them being the trade of Russell Wilson, which, of course, we did with the Denver Broncos. And then I'm looking at the contract extensions that three quarterbacks got with their current teams. They all these players would have been with their teams regardless because of the way their contracts were going through this season anyway. But I'm looking at these three contracts, and basically I just want to ponder something here. Are the Seahawks trying to get back on the cutting edge? Because when the Seahawks were at their peak, when the Seahawks were nailing draft classes, those three magical draft classes, one of the things that they did very well was they were trendsetters. They were on the cutting edge. They were doing things that other teams didn't do, that in the next few years, those teams would start to realize, whoa, we should be doing those things. Specifically with the kinds of defensive backs we drafted, that was the most obvious thing. But you also had other things going on in there as well. A lot of the players that we drafted were not looked on kindly by the rest of the NFL. Bobby Wagner was too small. Russell Wilson was too small. There were things we were doing that other teams weren't doing. Converting defensive linemen to offensive linemen. And, I mean, I know that that pattern has a negative reputation with this franchise right now because it didn't work so much, but it did work the first time we did it with J.R. Sweezy. We did a lot of things that were unconventional, and they worked. And unlike some of our recent drafts, that was a pure positive. That's not me being sarcastic and saying, oh yeah, every other team in the league is being smart and we're being stupid. No, this was, we were doing things that other teams were not thinking of. And as I look at this offseason and the decisions that we made to move Wilson and the decisions that these other teams made to marry themselves to quarterbacks, I wonder if maybe we're trying to get back to that after many years of really not doing that, kind of losing our way a little bit. So this is a big one that I'm about to get into as well. This is a big deal. So you've got Aaron Rodgers, and I get this one, right? Because he just won back-to-back MVPs. But he's going to turn 39 during the regular season, and he kind of has no-showed two postseasons in a row. 2 home playoff games where it looked for all the world like the Packers were going to go to that second Super Bowl with Rodgers. It's not like it's a bad thing. It's completely understandable why you would marry yourself to Rodgers, but still, you're talking about a guy who's about to turn 39, and you give him a contract extension that is worth more than $50 million a year. That's obviously rolled into the contract that he was already sitting on, and the actual value of the contract per year is a little less than that, but it's in the ballpark. So you give Aaron Rodgers a contract extension worth more than $50 million a year. Deshaun Watson, who hasn't played football in a year, gets a contract extension worth $46 million a year, and Kyler Murray, who has a losing record, gets even more than that. And this is just like scratching the surface. I already talked about the Kyler Murray stuff, but Deshaun Watson's contract is fully guaranteed. And there was a ton of risk with him, right? We knew when they traded for him, they knew he had 24 women accusing him of, you guys know what I'm talking about. And they still gave him a new contract that is fully guaranteed, $46 million a year average. Kyler gets more than that with 0 playoff wins, a losing record, good seasons, but nothing over the top. And what I'm trying to say is this. You see these teams finding a reason to pay their quarterbacks, looking for a reason. These teams looked at Aaron Rodgers and went, well, he's really old. He's kind of no-showed a couple playoff games in a row, but he's won 2 MVPs in a row, so we pay him. Deshaun Watson, yes, he's in all these off the field. He's got all these off the field issues. He hasn't played football in a year, but we're still going to pay him because he's really good last time he played. 2020, he had a monster year statistically. He just, he didn't win games. Kyler Murray, yeah, he's got these things. He hasn't had NFL level, high level NFL success yet, but he's put up good seasons. He's put up good numbers. He's talented. So we're going to pay him. So these teams are looking for reasons to pay their quarterbacks. The Seahawks, however, decided to look for a reason to not pay their quarterback. And I'm not saying that money is the only reason why the Seahawks traded Russell Wilson, but it had to be part of it. They had to look at that and go, look, we got 1 more year of Wilson, and then he's going to want an extension, almost certainly. Top-level NFL players, the top-level, well, mostly quarterbacks, but other positions too, high-profile players don't want to play their contract year. And it makes sense why. It's a very violent sport that they play. You don't want to play a season with no long-term security of any kind. So we looked at Wilson and went, he's getting older. He's going to turn, I think, 34 this year. He really hasn't held up his end of the bargain for the last year and a half. For the last year and a half, our defense had been better than our offense. And they looked at these things, and part of it had to be, there was a lot that went into it. It can't just be, I know some people say, well, maybe Wilson demanded out behind the scenes and we had no choice. Well, Aaron Rodgers publicly demanded out, and the Packers went, no, we will do whatever it takes to make you happy. We are not trading you. So it can't just be that if you think he's all that. So part of it had to have been you don't want to pay him. And I have said many times that I am totally fine paying a premium price for a premium player. If you want the top 3 quarterback, you should be willing to give him 18% or whatever percentage of the cap it is. I think it's around 18%. We know Wilson's agent has asked for 20% of the cap, which we told him to beat it on that one. But it's in that ballpark, 15 to 18%. If you want that elite quarterback, when the time comes to pay him, you shouldn't expect him to give you a discount. You shouldn't expect him to give you a pay cut. That's fine. But I also understand that paying that kind of price to somebody who isn't that impeccable quarterback is a problem. So in trading Wilson, are the Seahawks trying to be trendsetters again? Be one of the teams that just goes, no, get out of here. we will win with a lesser quarterback making 10% of what you're asking for, if that. It depends on where you draft them. It could be 5%. We will use the extra money we save on so many quality pieces. We will use the draft picks we get when we trade you on quality pieces, and we will win more than we would have with you, even if you're better than the quarterback we end up with. And you're not seeing teams do that right now. Teams are giving in. Teams are afraid of making that gamble. Aaron Rodgers is so good they can't just let him go. Deshaun Watson is so good he's worth trading for and extending with a fully guaranteed contract with all the legal issues he's facing. Kyler Murray is worth marrying yourself to for probably his career, because it's basically a 7-year commitment for a small, already somewhat injury-prone quarterback. And the Seahawks, like I said, they looked for a reason to not marry themselves to Wilson for the rest of his career, because his next extension, it's rumored that he's going to want 5 years, and that makes sense, right? It's probably the last big money contract he's getting. So, we decided, you know what? We don't want to marry ourselves to Wilson until he turns 40. We don't want to marry ourselves to Wilson in what will probably be the down years of his career. And I'm not saying it's definitely going to work, but I like the fact that we're trying to do something different. I always talk about process versus results on this channel. You can have a good process and have bad results, but you have to keep to that good process. And if your quarterback is going to ask for top 3 money, like these guys did, and they're not going to give you top 3 play, you're better off not having them. So maybe we looked at Wilson and went, he's going to ask for top 3 money unless he has a really bad year this year. And if he has a bad year, then that doesn't help us either. And he's not going to be a top 3 quarterback for the duration of his contract, that rumored 5-year, $250 million deal. So they decided, you know what? We're going to try to do things differently than all these other teams. I mean, even the Kansas City Chiefs, who you can't say anything bad about their decision to give Mahomes the monster deal, right? Mahomes 100% deserved that monster deal, and it would have been crazy for them not to give it to him after he'd won MVP, Super Bowl MVP, done all the things that he had done. But they haven't won a Super Bowl since he signed that contract, and the big money hasn't even kicked in yet, right? I think that if you get a quarterback like that, or a Josh Allen, or just a unimpeachable player, an unimpeachable quarterback, you go, okay, fine, we got to pay him. He's too good. He's going to be worth that money, even compared to all the extra stuff you could get with that money if you end up with a rookie quarterback. But short of that, maybe the Seahawks are going to be one of these teams that decides, you know what? No, we're not playing this game. Quarterbacks have teams over a barrel right now. Quarterbacks are asking, any decent quarterback is asking for 40 mil plus, and that number's turning into 45 mil plus, going to be 50 mil plus. And what this is going to lead to is the better than decent quarterbacks are going to start asking for 55, 60, 65. Next year, if Wilson has a big year for Denver, he's probably going to want like 60 million a year, and he can very easily argue for it. Kyler Murray got 46 million, and Kyler had never won a playoff game and had a losing record when he got it. If he wins a playoff game with Denver this year, he's going to have a leg to stand on to say, give me 55 to 60 million a year. So instead of getting involved in that arms race, maybe we're going, you know what? We can get a rookie quarterback next year in the draft, pay him a few million a year, and we can put that 55 to 60 million we're saving on other things. Now, I've said before that it's not realistic to build the Legion of Boom era defense again because it was so good. So many elite players, so many draft steals you got. I stand by that, but if you could build the best defense in the league again, you probably would rather have that best defense in the league and a decent quarterback than the top 5 quarterback, but no defense, right? It's just a good trade. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. You're seeing the Ravens maybe doing this as well. They're letting Lamar play out the last year of his deal, it looks like, and I don't think they're going to re-sign him unless he has a monster season. I think they're going to go, okay, on to the next quarterback. Let's keep our costs down. Let's not spend big money on a quarterback. Let's allow our team to stay as elite as possible and not sacrifice at other positions because we're paying a quarterback 50 mil plus. I think the 49ers may end up being a team that does this unless Trey Lance looks just incredible because they don't need the elite quarterback to win. They have proven that. They were able to make 2 deep playoff runs with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. They may become a team that just decides we're not going to pay big money to a quarterback anymore as long as they have Shanahan. And as NFL offenses, this is the important part really, as NFL offenses start to become more simplified for a quarterback to run, more easy throws, more scheming receivers open, more making things easy for these guys, where you're seeing a quarterback like a Jared Goff have big statistical years for the Rams despite kind of not really being able to read a defense. You're going to start to see more good quarterbacks in the NFL. You're going to start seeing draft classes with a bunch of good quarterbacks entering the league every year. You're going to see maybe 5 or 6 quality quarterbacks every year. And then eventually there are going to be more quality quarterbacks who can win, like win at the highest level than there are teams. And then these quarterbacks who are asking for 18% of the salary cap, teams will now be empowered to go, no. And those guys are eventually going to have to say, okay, we're going to bring our asking price down a little bit here. And like I said, I got no problem with these guys trying to get paid as much as they can. I got no problem with these guys taking up 15 to 18% of the cap because guess what? That leaves you 82 to 85% of the cap that you should be able to utilize with the draft to build a great team, regardless. But I know it's easier with a cheaper quarterback. I know you would rather have 90% of the cap left over after paying your quarterback than 85, or in extreme cases like 82. So you're going to remove the ability of quarterbacks to just hold teams hostage. You're going to remove the ability of a slightly above average quarterback like a Kyler Murray to get $46 million a year. And it's going to be ultimately, I think, beneficial for teams. Us as fans, we're going to benefit from it. And the Seahawks may, whether or not it works, may be looked at as one of the teams that set the trend of looking at these quarterbacks asking for ridiculous money and saying no. All right, see you guys later. Going to be on Twitch pretty soon here. Going to watch the Mariners game and hope to see you there. Go Hawks.